Welcome to the Drill Down, in-depth answers to oil field questions. I'm Richard Spears.
And I'm John Spears.
And you have been very busy over the Thanksgiving holiday and this week preparing for Friday's Drilling and Production Outlook Conference for our clients.
That's right.
Of that service.
Yeah, that's right. 4 times a year. Time to get it done.
And we launched this service, was it in 1980, 81, or 82?
82, thereabouts. We started doing a forecast for pay, as a standalone service. We moved to a quarterly forecast in 83, so many, many years ago now. So
we have hundreds and hundreds of corporations as clients for the drilling forecast, so we have to pay a lot of attention to it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely your baby, and so, by the way, if you would like to, we know that many of our insiders, people who listen to the podcast, are also subscribers to the Drilling and Production Outlook.
Right.
But if you are interested in it, surf over to spearsresearch.com, look at the DPO thing, and
happy to have clients.
Happy to sign you up.
Yep.
But today, what I'm doing with my brother is we have a speech that we're giving on Thursday at noon.
That's right. This Thursday.
And we usually do it in person, but everything's
not this year.
These
Nope.
days.
Nah.
But every year in December, the Gulf Coast section of the SPE, specifically the Drilling Study Group, they have a joint meeting with the Houston group of the AADE. So the SPE Gulf Coast section, Drilling Study Group, and the AADE host a big luncheon. Hundreds of people.
It has to be a big lunch just for all those vowels and consonants. Acronyms. Yes.
It is. It's like half the alphabet is there. But usually we do it in person. It's always sold out at Petroleum Club. Not going to happen this year in person, so we're doing it virtually.
Yes.
And you and I are going to speak at noon.
Right.
And so, and we're going to answer the 10 questions that our clients call in and ask us about.
That's right. And the reason that's relevant to today's podcast is that
I'm going to ask you 2 of those 10 questions.
Okay. I bet one of them is, have you bought me a Christmas gift yet? And the answer to that one is no.
It's no. I know what it already is. It's Argyle socks.
How about your other question? I think I know what it is.
What's that?
What happened to that monolith in Utah, right? You know what? Yeah. I don't know the answer to that one, though. So.
I'm not sure they got it in the back of your Honda. Yeah, where did that thing go? How did it get there?
I don't know.
How did it leave?
I'm just looking for someone who has to buy a lot more Christmas.
Yeah, 2001.
So we're not going to answer those 2 questions.
No, but I have 2 of the questions.
Yeah.
And by the way, just in sort of order, for those people who are watching online
Yes.
on the YouTube channel, here are the 10 questions.
There they are.
But I'm going to ask you question number 3 and question number 9.
Let's hear it.
Are you ready? All
yeah,
right.
okay.
Question number 3. What type of operator is pushing the current growth in U.S. rig count, or is the growth spread across all sizes and shapes of oil and gas producer?
Well, that's an excellent question. So for those following like the Baker Hughes count, we've seen rig count jump about 25% from its low point, which was August. And so the question is, that 25% increase, who's driving it, right? I think the correct answer is it's pretty broad-based. So good.
No, wait, because if somebody just heard that, there's going to be a lot of people who said, well, I thought it was the big oil companies. I thought it was the majors.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that would be certainly a lot of reason to expect that. But I would think what we find when we look at who are the operators of records for those rigs is we see that not only have the big guys increased their activity, but a bunch of operators who weren't drilling any wells in the summertime have retained a rig and are out there punching holes too. So I draw great satisfaction from that, in that we're not dependent upon a handful of operators increasing rig activity at the current stage. This is something that I think a number of it's fairly broad based, and so hopefully that means it'll have decent momentum going forward. That it won't be something that just sort of again tenuous and dependent upon 1 or 2 companies doing. But
one of the questions I'm going to ask you on Thursday.
Yep.
I'm not asking you right now.
Okay. Right.
Is the current uptick in drilling activity, is it a dead cat bounce? Or is it actually a secular trend up?
So I get a couple days to
you can
to
think about it
that.
today as we're recording this on a Tuesday. You got 48 hours.
I'll do that.
Is it a dead cat bounce? All right, so question number 9
Right.
out of the 10-question list
Okay,
is, so that was a U.S. question.
That was a U.S. question.
drilling activity question.
Right.
Here's a Middle East question. What is the pace of drilling in the Middle East next year?
Right, yes.
Because that thing has been, first half of this year, it was sustained, it was robust.
Right
it
through
made
the
a
middle,
lot of people,
right through the middle of the year, stayed pretty steady Eddie in the Middle East.
And then
fell off a cliff.
time.
Fell off a cliff. And again, operators out in the Middle East, of course, mostly national oil companies, right? Not entirely, but mostly. And they have their pattern in the past through previous cycles has been to sort of keep activity high and not back off in terms of drilling or completing wells, bringing fields on production. This time, however, we've seen rig count down by more than 25% in the Middle East in short order. So, I think they're now caught up in the problems that operators in general have. Right? It was for those who followed, Saudi Aramco had to go to capital markets to raise the money so they could pay the dividend in the third quarter. Right?
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
If
you have to do that twice,
right.
That's bad news.
Yeah, but again, what does that tell you? That says here's Saudi, who's newly privatized, at least a teeny portion of it, and they're beginning to behave like multinationals.
Like Chevron.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Shell.
They're prioritizing returns to their shareholders over capital spending plans. So the other piece of that answer is that the drilling contractors working in that part of the world have basically been told that these rigs have been temporarily idled. So what does that mean? I don't think they're out parked by the fence and expected to stay there. I think the notion is that at some point, maybe over the coming year, they'll come back to work. And so that's encouraging. I think the reason that they'd come back to work is that, if you look at output, where does the oil in the Middle East get sold? Most of it goes to Asian markets, China, India, and so forth. Those economies have recovered faster from the pandemic than we have here in the U.S. and in Europe. So there's ongoing need for, the volume growth is occurring on those countries, and I think widely expected that come 21, 22, and so forth, we'll see more growth in demand. So if I'm a Middle East producer, I look around and say, geez, my end-use markets are up and running and going to go better. So I need to continue with these production capacity programs that I've undertaken. So I've idled rigs today because I'm short of cash, but I have a need to and an interest in expanding capacity, production capacity over time. So those rigs should go back to work. And so I think we'll begin to see as 2021 unfolds that Middle East rig count will begin to recover. It may not go right back to where it had been at the start of this year, but I think it'll begin to improve. So
one of the things we learned this year, I'm surprised it took us all this time to learn it.
Yeah.
If again, coming back to the United States, if you look at a drilling rig, like let's pick a fictitious rig, the Betty Sue number 1. Okay. So the Betty Sue number 1 drilling rig, if it goes to work and it's working for Bill and Ted's Oil Company, the Betty Sue number 1 drilling rig tends to only work for Bill and Ted's Oil Company.
All year long.
All year long.
Right.
It doesn't go bounce from Bill and Ted's Oil Company to Chevron, and then over to Shell, and then to Conoco,
right,
and then back to somebody else.
Yeah.
It tends to be this relationship that is sustained, that if Bill and Ted doesn't want to employ it, the rig goes and lays down and waits and waits and waits and waits until Bill and Ted call back.
Yeah.
And say,
that's certainly been
again.
Characteristic of the market these days.
So do you think that in the Middle East the same thing occurs?
Yeah.
That a neighbor's rig, the number 2, it only works for Kuwait Oil Company.
Sure. Well, yes, I think so, largely because the lineup of operators working in these countries there's not much turnover there.
Pretty small. In a country.
Yeah. So they've got a limited pool to go back to workforce, so there's a pretty high chance that they'd be retained by whoever had previously employed the rig, I think. So, again, there's reason to expect that that these operators will take up their field development efforts once again, and that'll help put some legs under our international forecast for next year, I think.
The last question I'm going to ask you on Thursday, when we're at the joint meeting with the SPE Gulf Coast section and the AADE, is I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
When do you think this time of negative chaos will all be behind us? That's going to be the last question I ask you on Thursday.
I gotcha.
So another 48 hours to think about what the right answer to this is. We have thousands of people who listen to this podcast, and the SPE Gulf Coast Section Drilling Study Group and the AADE would very happily invite you to come listen to our speech at noon on this coming Thursday, whatever that is, December the 3rd. There is a fee for that meeting. If you're a member of SPE or you're a member of AADE, it's $15. If you're not a member of either one,
there's
it's
a non-member fee. I gotcha.
That doesn't go to us; it goes to the organization so that they can continue their, sustain their missions. But you are invited to do that, and they have the capacity for like 1,000 people.
Oh, to hear. Okay.
So they're already going to have 350 people listen in.
Yeah.
So another 650 can probably log in and not crash the system.
And if they do, then they'll get to hear the rest of your questions and whatever I can come up with an answer.
You got 48 hours.
Fair enough.
Anyway, thanks for listening to The Drill Down. I'm Richard Spears.
And I'm John Spears.